are now joining our 7th summer series webinar brought to you by CountryMark and Ergon. Today we will hear from Doug Curl of the Kentucky Geological Survey, who will give us an overview of the newly designed Kentucky Geological Map Service. But before we begin, I would like to thank our webinar sponsors, as we do every single week. Those are AquaClear, Bingham Greenbaum and Dahl, Bidco Insurance Companies, Black Ridge Resource Partners, Britannia, Diversified Gas and Oil, InLink, Hughes Land, Phil Brown Insurance, Reliance Well Service, Steptoe and Johnson, Wyatt Tarrant Incomes, Cumberland Valley Resources, and again, CountryMark and Ergon. Just a few things before we begin here. Our past episodes can be viewed on our website at www.kyoilgas.org/summer series. Next week, we will hear from Rob McHale of Marathon Mark West, who will discuss the innovations in pigging and how to reduce pipeline emissions. Just one note, as always, our Q&A session, you can ask those at any time in the chat or Q&A feature, and we'll be able to answer those as Mr. Curl finishes his presentation. Now, the biography for Doug will be in the chat feature. So just to kind of give you a brief overview, Doug has worked at the Kentucky Geological Survey since 1998. He is a graduate of the University of Tennessee with a master's in geology. We won't hold that against you because now you work for the better SEC team, University of Kentucky. So with Doug, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, and thank you so much for participating in our webinar today.
Great, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate the introduction, and I do pull for UK over YouTube, just to give you a heads up about that. But so today I wanted to give an overview and demo of our newly designed Geologic Map Service. If you have used this map service before, the older version, then I think this demo will be very useful to you for kind of navigating the new features and capabilities of the service. It's admittedly pretty different from the old version, and I'll get into all of that. And then if you've not used our Geologic Map Service, this will be a nice introduction to what this service is, what it provides. It goes way beyond just geologic mapping. I think for the oil and gas community, probably the primary reason this is used is for viewing the locations of oil and gas wells and getting that data. And I'll show how people do that and why the oil and gas community is so important to KGS and to using this service. So let me try to advance the slide here. No, okay, advance the slide. Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag. So I'll just back up a little bit and talk a little bit about KGS data if you're not totally familiar. If you're just familiar with oil and gas data that KGS provides, you might not be familiar with all the other data sets that we have. We have over 16 million KGS records in our database. That's what we store. Not all of this is derived from KGS. Particularly oil and gas and groundwater data. Oil and gas is derived from the well data from Division of Oil and Gas, groundwater data from Division of Water, but we're the repository for groundwater data and for oil and gas documents. We're the official repository. And along with oil and gas documents, we need the locations of where those documents are located, and so we host the oil and gas wells that we get from DOG. There's a pretty close relationship between KGS and DOG, and we get those wells and serve them on our website through various means, including this map service. We also have a number of publications. We have a lot of coal data, which you may or may not be familiar with. A pretty rich coal data repository. Of course, groundwater. We have minerals data from limestone to primarily limestone, the non-coal minerals data is primarily limestone, but we have data on other minerals. We have geochemical data, we have geotechnical data, we also have, and then we have, our research project data, our newer geologic mapping data. Probably our crown jewel data set that we have at KGS, aside from all these 60 million records, and something that we created at KGS with the USGS is our geologic map data, the detailed geologic map data, which if you're not familiar with that program, it started in I think in the 60s to detailed 1 to 24,000 geologic mapping of the entire state, and that was done somewhere in the 80s. And then we had a program where we digitized all those quadrangles and captured not only the lines, but also the attribute data, the descriptions from those GQs, and we stored them in our database, and that's what we call our digitally vectorized geologic quadrangle data set. And really the Geologic Map Service is centered around that data set, but the map service has, as we'll see, has a lot of these other data sets in it so that you can view those in context with the geology. But we're one of the only states that has that detail, particularly a larger state like Kentucky. So we're very proud of that data set, and you should be too as a Kentuckian. We also have superficial geologic map data in our database. We will be serving that at some point on our website, hopefully soon. We have active geologic mapping going on now for superficial geologic map units, and so we'll be hosting that data on the map service. We have, of course, the location of database records. So we have the records, but also the locations. And so that's really GIS data. We also have acquired the LIDAR point cloud data from the Kentucky From Above program through the Division of Geographic Information. And they very kindly gave us their LIDAR point cloud data, and we can use that for research along with all of our other GIS data. And then for the oil and gas community, something that's really important is the oil and gas documents. That's what we're the official repository for. And we have 770,000 plus scanned documents, both page size and e-logs. And those are available through our website, most of them. We have publications that are scanned. And then we also host water well and spring documents, which we don't scan, but we get from the Kentucky Division of Water. So very rich amount of data that, if you're in the oil and gas community, maybe some of this could supplement your work because there is, three-dimensional data associated with this that, with groundwater data, with other data sets that, that's sort of our next realm that we're going to get into at KGS is really enhancing our 3D capability and data sets. So, all right, so the Geologic Map Information Service really derives from all of our work that we've done pretty much since, 1996 is when we started a website, and it was really static data, but it's one of the more popular at UK. It hosts a lot of education information and other interesting geologic information. But in 2001, we started development of dynamic and map services to provide web access to all those database records and GIS data, to scan documents. People are still very welcome. Well, not right. The second, welcome to come to KGS to view documents and view data and talk to us. But they're really, with the advent of the web, there really was a thirst for needing that data online and getting access to it and increasing our reach. And so in 2001, we started putting these online, and we made a decision to do this at no cost to users because we felt like that was important, and it was frankly easier to do it that way. So in 2004, we debuted the Geologic Map Information Service, which I'll get more into here. But I just wanted to provide some of the background, and I'll give a little bit more history here of the map service, but just to make you familiar with all the other data sets that we do provide at KGS. And this is the bottom part of this slide is just a listing of a lot of these services that we now have online. I get asked a lot about web statistics, and I thought I'd put this up here because it might be of interest to the oil and gas community that you are the biggest user of our data by far. I mean, unless there's somebody else looking for oil and gas records, it's oil and gas researchers, people in the field who are really driving traffic to our website, if you will. So I just plotted here 4 of our most popular data services, data and map services. It's the oil and gas in the blue. Number of hits is on the left, and that number doesn't really matter, but it's a big number for oil and gas records. And then the kind of reddish line below that is the Geologic Map Service, and then the orangish line is publications, and then the purple line is water well and spring records. And all these are important, and particularly water wells and springs. We get a lot of feedback and use from those, but by far oil and gas is the big driver. And I just decided to plot for kicks the crude oil price and the green bars to show, you could make a case here that crude oil prices kind of drive traffic to particularly oil and gas records, but it probably if we could enhance the look of the Geologic Map Service, it probably drives the traffic to the Geologic Map Service as well. So just kind of an interesting aside, but we get a lot of value from the feedback that we get from the oil and gas community. They're a big user of our data. And so if you have any feedback, I'm the person to contact about the website. And I try to be accommodating and have a discussion about it and make changes based on what people see and that sort of thing. So just a little history about the map service. We started providing this in 2004. What we call our ArcIMS version. It was very slow, but the idea was, initially provide a place where we could put our detailed geologic map data, right? So that was neat, and you could explore that data. But then, we started getting questions and started, very quickly realizing, oh, well, we could overlay a lot of other things on this geologic map data. And so this really became a one-stop shop for GIS-related data. And what's not shown on here, if you scroll down, are all the overlays that you could put on this map service. The map service was kind of slow. It was called ArcIMS. It was a slower technology, but it worked, and it became pretty popular thing to use. And you could, without you having a GIS program at your, at your office or your home, you could view all this GIS data just from your web browser and without plugins or paying for it or anything. So it was kind of a neat thing. Then 2010, we developed the version, if you've been using our map service, what you're probably more familiar with, which is called the Slippy Map version. This version was much faster. It used newer technology. We moved everything from the right over to the left, just because that's better for increasing, decreasing the size of the browser, things like that. But the concept was the same, to provide the geologic map data with the context of all these other data sets that you could lay on top of it, along with base map data and all that kind of thing. And then we also developed a mobile version separate from this, and I'll get into why the new version's neat, because you can use it both ways. This version you really can only use on a desktop and not on a mobile device. So we developed a separate mobile version that is still widely used today. So as I said, we did that in 2010. It's now 2020. It was really time to upgrade this website because there was some new technology that we wanted to take advantage of, particularly showing faster layers, really making this much easier to customize later. Frankly, so I could, if I needed to pass this on to another developer and it'd be much easier for them to come in and develop functionality for it, but also just a more streamlined design, kind of taking some of the elements and mashing them together or that sort of thing, and just making a cleaner look. One of the neater things about this is that now you can see detailed layers, particularly the geologic map layers at all scales. Before you could not see the 1 to 24,000 data at the state level, and in this map service, the first thing that you see that pops right up is the 1 to 24,000 geologic map, the detailed geologic map data, and then it's just faster to zoom and that sort of thing. The other thing that was important was making this mobile and tablet usable. We did have this separate version, but when you do that, you have to update both versions, and sometimes you miss things and that sort of thing. So with this way, you can use this one version, whether it's on your desktop or your tablet or mobile. And this is very new. We debuted it in March 2020. We redirected it just last month. I've already gotten a lot of feedback, and I've tried to enhance the sort. There are a lot of things that were noticed. When you start getting users to use the service, they start telling you what's wrong with it, and that's great. And I'm always looking for feedback on issues or comments or ideas, even about new layers that you want to see or ways to display things and that sort of thing. Because from my point of view, I work at the survey and I'm looking at it from that point of view, but not necessarily. I can't always look from everybody else's, like the oil and gas community. I get really good feedback from folks. So please email me if you have comments and that sort of thing. Just yes, the old version is still available. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but this version, it's newer web technology. All modern browsers, any browser that you have now that you just, if you recently got Chrome or, it would update automatically. It'll work, Safari and Firefox and Microsoft Edge, but not Microsoft Internet Explorer. That browser has now gone away. But many people still have it. I know there's a lot of legacy systems out there. It's just the way things are. And so we're keeping the old version up. You can redirect to it. It redirects you automatically if you're using an older browser. So yes, it's still available, but we just won't be adding new layers or new functionality to it. But for most people that want to use that, that's okay, I think. So I'll talk more about that. But and just for the the oil and gas community, I'm focused on this, the geologic map, the detailed geologic map, but this petroleum map layout of the geologic map service, that's what most people in the oil and gas community probably work with. And so I'll show you all that. So it's demo time. And so I'm going to switch it up here. I just put this on here because there's lots of different ways to get to the map service. From our main website, there's a link directly from the front page, and I'll show that. But also from the oil and gas well search, there's a link to the petroleum map layout of the geologic map service. I've now put a link to the new one, this one that I'm going to show, but also to the older version if people want to still use that. So everybody's happy, I hope. So I'm going to switch sharing. Let's see how this works. Bear with me. All right. So you should see the website right now. If not, somebody speak up. But I'm sharing the KGS website. I have to. It's very large type for me because I have to zoom in so you all can see it. So sorry if this big announcement fills the page, but what I wanted to show you was if you just go to this menu right here on our front page, click Geologic Map Information Service, and it will go to that. So do that, it'll open it. But you can also, just type the URL, you can bookmark it, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'll show the, while I'm here, I might as well do this. This is the oil and gas search, the tabular search that, if you're used to searching for oil and gas wells, you've probably gone to. I'll just search in, say, Allen County. We get a lot of records, but if a well has a location, there's a link to the map service from here, and so this is to the new version and then to the old version. So just two different ways you can get to this map service. So now I'll dive into this. So if you just open the map service, this is what you get. The first thing you'll see is this about page. Excuse me. So the about page, this is where, I'll probably populate this as I go. Hopefully most of the information we need is here. But for instance, like if it's okay, I want to probably link to this video when it's recorded, just so that people have access to as much information about how to use this service as possible. But just give you some information about browser support. You can open this in a new window if you really want. And then it's got these collapsing menus, and I use these collapsing menus a lot on this service. But so it describes what the geologic map layers are, and kind of goes through what I described about the the geologic map data, and I'll get into some of the functionality that it describes. And then a lot of it describe all the other types of layers in general, about what's hosted on here. We also have a lot of base map data from the Division of Geographic Information from the Kentucky from Above series, and I'll show how you can display that. New in this service is a map bookmarking service, which I'll get into in a few minutes. And then map tools, description of the map tools, and I'll describe all of these. But they are available in this about menu, and then a link back to the previous version. Like I said, if you're using an older browser, this should redirect you to the older version automatically. But if for some reason you just want to use that older version, the link is down here for that. The mobile version is here, and we'll keep that up. I mean, there's no cost to us to keep it up. But I will warn that we won't be updating it with any new features or any of that sort of thing. I'll fix problems if there's problems, but there won't be any new layers added or new features or tools or that sort of thing. Our focus is on this map service, but I do understand there's legacy services, legacy systems that people are using, and so this access is needed. So that's the about. So pretty much everything you do is driven on the menu on the left here. And like I said, this is mobile. You can use this on a mobile device. If I make this really small, it sort of gives what it looks like, but I won't do that too much. But the menu here is where you'll find all the tools and the layers and Map Legend and all that kind of thing. But I'll kind of go out of order, but you can get back to the About menu here. You close, click that X to collapse things. You can also do that if you really want. I just double clicked on the bar and it did that. So you can always get back to everything. So we have tools, zoom to location. I'll come back to all of these, but I want to show first first I'll show kind of the functionality of the map. So I'm using my scroll wheel on my mouse to zoom in, and you can kind of see how fast this is. This is the 1 to 24,000 geologic map data. It's very detailed, but we're able to kind of use this new technology to make it faster. It's not really new. It's new that we're using. Technology's been around actually for a little bit, but you can also use the plus minus here on the left to zoom. If you're on a mobile device, you can pinch zoom just like you would in Google Maps or something. And then you can get back to the state extent, and you can kind of see how fast this is. So it's very basic usage. The ID tool is already, it's always sort of on, this ID tool. And so what I've done is I've clicked somewhere on the map and I've identified the Clay Sperry formation. You can see it highlighted that the extent of that polygon. And then because we've captured a lot of more rich information about, you know, these map units from the 1 to 24,000 data, we have in our database the full geologic description. You can always link back to the original source of information. So this is a link to the original GQ publication listing. Just by clicking that, you can view the stratigraphic column from that quadrangle. So here's the Clay Sperry formation and that description. And then that description is in text here. So you can read that, you can copy and paste things, whatever. And so we try to get back to the, you know, the original data sources for these descriptions and where the data is coming from. This goes to a PDF of, or the listing of the PDF of the original GQ, but this goes to a listing for the DBGQ data. So say you want the shapefile data to use in a GIS for DBGQ 1378, which is the Macville quadrangle. You can click this and it will go straight to the listing for this, and you can download a zip file, just about 4.5 megabytes with the shape files for the Macville quad. So you can always go back to that, and then it just lists the attributes for this, the map symbol, the unit name, dominant lithology, description, etc. So that's what you get if you click, if the geologic map units are on and you click one. And then if there's more than one thing identified, I'll try to do that here. So here I've identified 8 things. I've got alluvium, more alluvium, Clay Sperry formation again, probably another polygon of Clay Sperry, Callaway Creek, etc., alluvium again. And then at the very end of all these ID windows is a coordinate ID, and you get that every time you click the map, no matter where, and no matter if anything's turned on. So this is a coordinate identification for that point. And it looks very much, if you're used to the old map service, we had a separate coordinate ID tool. Well, now it's just in the regular ID tool at the end of all the attributes. And so you do have to scroll a little bit on this because I'm zoomed in, but you can get this state plane and the geographic coordinates and NAD 83 and NAD 27, just like on the past on the old service. And then there's a docking feature. If you want to dock the window, you can dock and undock. It'll still point to that. If I scroll through, it'll it highlights these units. So there you go. So that's just the basic functionality. So again, here's the menu. I'm going to go to the map legend first because it's kind of the simplest thing. But so the map legend, if the geologic map units are on, the geologic map legend is kind of the first part of this. You can collapse this menu and then view the legend for all the other layers, but the Geologic Map Legend is sort of special. It's derived from our database. It's rich in information and a little bit rich in functionality. So this is new to the service, but if I double click this alluvium here, it will highlight where the centroid of these alluvium polygons on this view of the map. So it doesn't do it for the whole state. Otherwise it would bog it down. So whatever view you're looking at, it'll highlight these units. And so if I want to look at less, so this is an example. So the map legend is really for the quads in the view, but some of the formations might be outside of the view, so you get a nice error, I guess. Let's see. I knew there was Callaway Creek somewhere. Okay, here's Callaway Creek. It's probably this purple unit, but I'll click it. And this might be useful for, if you're doing a talk or something and you want to just highlight, okay, this is the Callaway Creek in this quadrangle. It just gives a little bit more visual about that. It's a little bit of an experiment to put this in here, but I think it works kind of nicely. So that's the map legend. I'll come back to it. You can remove that later, but just gives you the, it's a map legend. So the next thing I'll go to is probably this is the area where probably most people would be working in, I guess, if you will, when on this service, because this is where the layers you turn on and off, and there's a lot of functionality here in this layers list. But just like the map service before, we've provided a number of quick map layouts, and the map layouts on here are the same as they were on the old map service, but there's a nice little enhancement about this that before, if you clicked one of those buttons, the whole thing would refresh. But in this version, the browser doesn't refresh, it just turns on that layout. And so I can quickly click Petroleum Map, and just either in this area, there's only like 2 wells, but the faults are on. Here are the oil and gas wells. Dominant lithology can quickly turn on. You can switch back to geologic map. So these are just very, if you want to get to these, these layouts quickly without messing around with a bunch of layers down here, this is the way to do it. And when you go from that oil and gas search, you go to the Petroleum Geologic Map layout. There's also where it's available, I have a link to information. So this is about that layout. One for Geologic Map, about the Geologic Mapping Program. Radon Potential Map. This is a new one that I don't know if this is on the old version, but definitely on this version. This is the Radon Potential Map, which is derived from the Geologic Map Players. Rural holdings is the layout showing the holdings at the URL, or what some people might think of the core repository, the KGS, and you can still identify all these features. A little bit slow right now. And then you can collapse it. I'll come back to the bookmark thing, but I will point out that you can get a URL to this bookmark. And so when you click that, this is if you want to save this URL and just come back to this layout, do that. So say you want to save the Petroleum Map layout, you can do that. But there's another way to do this, and I'll show that after I show all the layers. But there's base maps. Now, I'll admit this is a little confusing, and I'm going to try to maybe fix this. But there's Esri base maps, and then there are the Kentucky from Above base maps. And I try to explain that there's a note in here explaining this, but none of the Esri base maps are turned on right now. And they're not turned on by default, but some people might find them useful. But if you'll notice, like I'll turn on this imagery and nothing happens. And the reason is because by default, the Kentucky from Above layers are turned on. And so now we're down in the layer list. So let me just go back and re-navigate everybody. So we have quick map layouts, which I've gone over. We have base maps here. And then we have the layer list here, which is the standard turn on and off layers like you would in the GIS. But these Kentucky from Above layers are what's on top of everything. I know it's a little confusing because it's way down at the bottom, and I'm going to work on fixing this because the more I use it, the more I realize how weird that is. But the topographic map series is turned on. To turn that off, I just simply click that eye and it turns off. And this is the Esri imagery below it. Now, if I go and I turn on USGS topographic map series, that's what gets laid on top of that Esri base map. So the Esri base map is below these Kentucky from above layers, but the Kentucky from above layers are so good. Their topographic map series is excellent. The USGS topographic map series is really nice. Esri doesn't really have that. And that's why they're on, and they probably should be elevated. One of the newest layers, which is really nice, is the Kentucky leaf-off 2-foot aerial, and it really only covers the eastern half of Kentucky. And so let me go back and turn off the Esri base map here. Go to gray. Actually, bear with me. I will turn off the hazards. There we go. This is a new imagery that the Division of Geographic Information has. It's leaf-off 2-foot imagery for most of the eastern half of the state, and it is really good-looking imagery. It's very detailed, but it's only for the eastern half. But that's a half of Kentucky that really has been underserved for imagery data, and so this I think is a really nice enhancement. I mean, you can with the leaf off, you can really see some detail, particularly in the mountains and forested areas and that sort of thing. But anyway, so I just want to make that first point about the base maps. That it's these Kentucky from above layers that are that overlay on top of everything. So, but back to the layers. So this is the layer list, and going back to the data thing from KGS, we have a lot of different data sets, and what we try to do is put everything that has a point that we can locate into this list, and it's antithetical to what Esri says to do. They say to do very focused map services and things like that, but we find a lot of users don't have a GIS and that sort of thing. GIS programming, and so a lot of people find the feedback that we get. They find this useful that they're able to overlay all these different data sets on top of each other. Oil and gas wells with water wells, etc. I'll turn on the springs and water wells, but just to I won't go through all of these. I invite you to explore the map service, and these quick layouts are a nice quick way of turning these things on and off, but you can customize your map by say I want coal boreholes and water wells and oil and gas wells on at the same time, and I'll point out that if you have this the top layer turned off, and I went and turned on oil and gas wells, it will turn on the whole group. So I fixed that last week if you were using this. But and then if you dive into this a little bit, each layer has this functionality where you can increase and decrease the opacity, the transparency of the layer. So since I have the water wells on, I'll do this with the. You can also view the legend right in here, so you can, you don't have to open the legend to look at the legend. You can just view it for each layer by just clicking this little icon. But this icon, the ellipse, there's a link to the layer information. I'll get into that, but you can decrease the opacity, you can increase it, and that's available for every single one. So you can really set up your map how you want. And then you could do a screen capture, you could print it, and that sort of thing. So yeah, you can view the legend right in the thing. And then for the layers where it's available, and I'm trying to make this, more available as much as I can for the layers that we have. But if a download is available for that layer, I'll turn off the water wells because they're just very busy. So right now I just have the oil and gas wells turned on with that really nice base map. But if a download is available in some format for that layer, and not all of them are going to be the same. Some may link to a website. Some may link, directly to a zip file that you download the shapefile for that data. Some may link to some type of service. I don't have any of those right now, but a service where it'll bundle that data up for you. But in this case, if you want the oil and gas wells, you want to download that data, it will go to our old shapefile download website where you can download the shapefile that Petroleum at KGS uploads every time we get a new set of oil and gas wells from the Division of Oil and Gas. And so you can link directly to where these data are be downloaded from. So look for that under the ellipse. They're not available for all the data sets, but for the deviated wells, it's just a zip download. So if I click this, it'll ask me, "Are you sure you want to download this file?" And I say cancel, but it's just 1.12 megabytes. But so that is the layer list. One other thing about this. Oh, I was going to show some of with this map service, it works a little bit differently than the old map service where, to turn labels on, you turn them on individually. Everything it's very granular. Everything is just a layer that you turn on and off. So the labels are one layer, the permit numbers are another layer, the well numbers are another, and then the oil and gas points are another. And if I zoom in, the labels don't turn on at this scale, but I zoom in, there's actually oil and gas wells. You can kind of apologize, it's moving a little slow. So there's a label for for an oil and gas well, and there's the point for it. So, but if you use the Petroleum Geologic Map, Geology Map, that's that gives you the label and the point. But just the way this that this is set up, it is very granular, and it gives you more flexibility about what you can turn on and turn off. I've also got total depth formation. So this looks really good if I zoom out to the entire state. So it's a very fast drawing layer, total depth and formation. This is deepest pay. So the hotter the color, the deeper the pay is. It probably takes a second for the legend to come up, and then I've got vertical depth here. So the hotter the color, the deeper the well is. I'm not sure why. Sometimes it's a little slow responding, especially since I'm doing this over the internet. So so that's the layer list. This is probably, this is an area where a lot of people will be working in to customize their map. And so say you've got all these layers configured how you want them. And you want to save that and you just want to come back to it. You don't want to go to the Geologic Map Service and turn on and off these things. Well, you can create a bookmark. And so say I've got this map, the layers I want. I simply just create a bookmark and it gives me a layout link. It gives you several layout links. One is to the link with no extent. So if I bookmark this, it'll come back to this whole and it'll copy the URL, and then you can open Notepad or Microsoft Word, or you can just paste it up in here. That's what it looks like. Come back. So what I'm doing is refreshing the map with that layout ID. I think. And there it is. So it saved that layout. Now, say I knew this layout number, so I bookmarked this, and it knows that, oh, okay, there's already a layout like that, and so that's the layout ID number. You can actually copy this and then paste it in here, and it will doesn't do anything now because I'm at that layout. But if I say turn on the karst potential map, and then I want to go back and just go back to that number. Where this would become important is if you went and searched for oil and gas data from our website, and say, you search Allen County again. I hit Allen County all the time, but I go to this petroleum map layout, and I'm going to zoom in on that well from here. So there I am. But I'm like, I had a nice layout that, I'd like to use. Instead of that petroleum map layout, I want to use that layout that I was using. And so I can go back to the layers and I can enter that layout ID and it'll reconfigure the map how I want it if I've zoomed in already. So it's just, it probably takes a little bit of figuring out and playing with it, but I think this bookmark tool will become useful. If you want to save this layout with the extent, you can do that. That's what that URL looks like. It's got all the coordinates for the bounding box in there. So, so that's the bookmark tool. I'd also point out from the layer list, you can display the map legend as well. So there's that. So some other, that's the primary tool that people will use a lot of times is this layers. We've already gone through the bookmark. And then it provided some other tools that were on the old map service, but these might be just a little bit different. There is a measure tool. Now this is, you just click the map, double click to end it. It tells you that distance. You can actually change the unit. So, I didn't want that in kilometers. I wanted it in miles. So you don't have to remeasure it. You just select the units thing. It'll do it for you. Back to the tools. You can deactivate the tool there. I can do the same with area, which is almost exactly the same, except it's area. And again, oh, I don't want that in square meters. I want it in square feet. I want it in acres. And so just a very quick measurement tool. You can do a new measurement from here if you want to redo it. Other tools, so I'm going to deactivate that. Now I showed you, if you click the map, you get the coordinates already from the ID tool. Sorry, it's a little slow, but there is this, it's a widget that came with the kind of the out of the box, if you will. As I move my cursor around, it changes the coordinates. Some people might find that useful. I can do this in decimal degrees. And so you don't have to, go around clicking to get the coordinates. There's actually a lot of functionality in this tool. You can convert between, say, decimal degrees and then Kentucky 1 zone. So you can do the conversion right there. You can set up the format how you want it. You can just click and get, the coordinate for that point. But like I said, the ID tool does that already. But it's kind of a neat tool. It's, you can zoom to a coordinate. So you can go to this location, but we also have another zoom tool for that. But so that's that coordinate tool. And then finally, the last kind of tool that I think a lot of people in the oil and gas community find useful is this area identify tool. So I can draw a box over that area. So I drew it there and it opens in a new window. And one of the things I think I'm going to do is try to integrate this more into the map service like it was in the old one. But there's no water wells found in that area, no springs, but it tells you all the wells, that were found there. And then you can link right to the permit, the record for that well. So that's the rectangular ID tool. Deactivate that. Now, if I click on that well, it should give me the query. Well, it gives you the attributes for that well, but this is something that I get a lot of feedback about that people find useful. But like I said, I'm going to try to integrate this into the map service as a window, when you do this, so you're not leaping out of it. But there it is. And then just one last thing is a couple last things is zoom to location. So on the previous map service, there was a bar up here for going to an address. Now it's just embedded in here. So this is my so you can enter any address, any location. I guess I shouldn't have done that. This will be on the internet somewhere, but not that it matters. But so you can enter any address or place name. But we also have the old, what I call the old tool, because it's a tool that's been around for a long time, where you can just enter a coordinate and then zoom to that coordinate. And it's a little slow, but there it is. And then there's a whole host of other things to choose from. And that, this was on the old map service as well. So this zooms to the extent of Adair County. And so there we are. And then finally, there's a print tool. Again, this is an out of the box tool that's very similar to the one that was on the other map service, but basically you export, so you get the extent that you want, and then you export it to either a layout version or a map only version. Layout version will have a legend on there, and then you can set the scale. I'll warn you, if you set the scale, it might be a little fuzzy if it's if it's like 1 to 24,000, because the way the map service is, that's what it does. And then you can do an author and a copyright, etc. So if I export, it'll start exporting, and then it'll tell you when it's done and give you a link to that PNG. But I do what I recommend is use your screen capture tool. If you're embedding this in say a PowerPoint or something, we do ask that you cite us, the Kentucky Geological Survey, Kentucky from above, but you can. This is what one of these PNGs looks like. So, and then feedback. Please. You can either email me, or you can use this feedback form to fill out. I do read these, so, and I try to respond to them. And so, I'm looking for feedback on how we can improve this. And I think that's, just looking at my notes, I think that's pretty much it. So thank you for having me. Take any questions, I guess.
Doug, for your presentation, very informative. And Doug has tentatively agreed to, if we have enough geologists and other folks in the oil and gas business who are interested, he would do another tutorial, another webinar for those, kind of a training session for those individuals who are interested in that opportunity. A couple of questions here. And one of the question is, you may have already said this, but just to reiterate, is this now based in ArcGIS Online?
No, it's not. This is actually a custom service that's beyond the capability of what we can do with ArcGIS Online. We are we are doing a lot of story maps and things like that with ArcGIS Online, but this uses similar technology to ArcGIS Online, but it's much more customized, if you will, with the what's called the JavaScript API is what I used. And if anybody's interested in the code behind this, I'm more than willing to share that, and I should probably put it like on a GitHub site or something to figure that out. But anyway.
Okay, and you may be able to see the second question, but how did you get the colored icons and circles to pop up when you clicked on the lithostrat unit?
Oh yeah, so you mean as far as technologically, or just how do you do it? I guess is.
Maybe can address both. It wasn't specified.
Oh yeah, so the way the technology behind doing that is go back and turn them on. It helps if you zoom in. And the service seems to be, I think it's slow because I'm doing a million different things right now. But the technology behind it is it takes the it knows the code of the formation code and the quadrangle and the code of the quadrangle that unit is in, like this pinkish unit. If I go up to the legend, it's MB here. So it knows the code from the attributes. I embed that into the legend along with the quadrangle that it's located in, and then I simply just do a query. Use a query function with the JavaScript API, and that query function, it gets the centroid of those polygons, and then that's what it's displaying as points. And if somebody's really interested in the code for how I did that, please contact me. It's just doug@uky.edu, and I'm happy to talk more about that. But,
okay, and I guess a follow-up question to that is, what do the circles represent?
Oh yeah, the circles are just the centroid of that polygon. So each polygon is drawn, and they're kind of separate. Like here's, if I can zoom in actually. The little polygons are separated, by maybe other units or faults or something, and so it just highlights the centroid of each polygon within that view of that formation. That's what it's doing. What I could do instead is highlight the polygons. I tried that, and what happened was it would totally seize up the whole web browser. So I decided to go with this point thing because it doesn't do that. Because in order to highlight all the formations, it has to draw that in your web browser, and that was just too much. Maybe in 10 years we can do that. But so what I decided to do was use the centroid of the thing and then just highlight that.
For you is, what about subsurface data? Are some of the survey structure maps available for use as layers?
Yes, the structure map from the Geologic Mapping Program is available as a layer. So I'll just turn those on. I'll turn the units off. So here they are. And one thing I didn't show, but which is really nice, I'm gonna do, bear with me for 2 seconds, but you can now see the structure contours at the full state extent, which some people might find really interesting, but you can see it at much bigger extents, which you couldn't do on the previous map service. So let's see, bear with me for 2 seconds. So yeah, I didn't dive much into the Geologic Map Players, but I should point out these are a lot more granular than they were before. So you can charge 24,000 units with the 1 to 500K units with dominant lithology, et cetera. You can overlap them. You can play with the opacity and that sort of thing. But to turn on the structure contours, there they are. So, so yes, these are from the Geologic Mapping Program, but if we get more data like this, I'd like to add it. I mean, you know, ultimately what we'd like this to be is a gateway to our 3D data. So we have other structure contour data at KGS, and what I'd like to do is add those as layers in this map service. You know, things like the structure of the big line, I know is one, and there are others. So, so great question, and it just reminded me that yes, we need to add those, but the structure contours from the Geologic Mapping Program are on here.
Perfect, and I think that's all the questions that for today. Thank you so much for giving this presentation today. And like I said, Doug has agreed to tentatively give another presentation, a training session, if you will, to any of those geologists or other individuals in the oil and gas industry in Kentucky, a tutorial on how to use this. And we'll provide that information as soon as that becomes available. So again, Doug, thank you so much. Do you have any last parting words?
No, like I said, I'm happy to give a tutorial on this. Again, ask me questions, email me, and really thank you for giving us the opportunity to showcase our new service here. And so thank you.
Okay, thank you. And everybody says thank you as well. We'll see you next week.
All right.
See you, Doug.
Thanks, Ryan.